Making headlines tonight, the Cuban President arrives for the 8th CARICOM-Cuba Summit. Scores of Barbadians seeking jobs at the Windham Grand Lord's Castle Job Fair. New banknotes are now in circulation in Barbados. And coming up in sports, Brazil and Croatia advance to the FIFA World Cup quarterfinals in contrasting fashion.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7:07. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel has arrived in Barbados for the CARICOM-Cuba Summit, being taken place at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Center over the next few days. Wendy Burke was at the airport for the pomp and pageantry.
The march on of the members of the Barbados Coast Guard and the Barbados Police Service Band marked the touchdown of the plane carrying Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel. The red carpet was laid for the official visit. He was accompanied by several members of his delegation and was met by Barbados official party of Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley, Minister of Foreign Affairs Kerry Simmons, chaperone to the Cuban President David St. Ishmael, Ambassador of Barbados to Cuba Philip St. Hill, Chief of Staff of the Barbados Defence Force Commodore Errington Sherlin, Commissioner of Police Richard Boyce, and Chief of Protocol Risa Lane. The official welcome saw a gun salute, the unfurling of the Cuban flag, and the official introductions of the two parties. The Cuban president and the prime minister inspecting the troops as the band played. The anthems of the two countries were then played before the official party left the airport for discussions at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Center. Wendy Burke, CBC News.
Thank you, Wendy. The Cuban president was in St. Vincent prior to his arrival here. It was there that Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves assured the solidarity between the two countries will never be shaken. A special sitting of the House of Parliament was held where the contributions of Havana were highlighted and praised. Dr. Gonsalves says the trip, the first official visit by a Cuban president to St. Vincent, will strengthen and fortify existing good relations.
These bonds of friendship are grounded in high principle, mutual respect, multilateralism, the fundamental tenets of the Charter of the United Nations, our Caribbeanness, and our strivings for peace, justice, security, and prosperity for all. Differences in our political and economic systems have never hampered us in the building of our ties that bind. Earlier this year, on May the 26th, Cuba and St. Vincent and the Grenadines celebrated 30 years of diplomatic relations between our two countries. Tomorrow in Barbados, at the 8th Cuba CARICOM Summit, we mark the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Cuba and 4 independent English-speaking Caribbean countries at that time: Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago.
The Cuban president says the Caribbean nations have stood by Cuba in solidarity. He says talks have been held with St. Vincent to advance several areas of cooperation.
Que nos imponen retos comunes.
These have been days of intense emotions in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in which we have received sincere displays of respect for and solidarity with our people and our revolution. We have discussed with the local authorities about the status of our relations, the implementation of joint projects, and the exploration of new opportunities for expanded relations, always in the benefit of our two peoples. We have also discussed our viewpoints of matters of regional and international interest, which pose common challenges.
Up to 1,000 jobs may be up for grabs as the Windham Grand Lord's Castle prepares for opening day early next year. Today, scores of people who lost their jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic were out seeking employment at the company's 6-day job fair. Sharika Griffith was there and filed this report.
Queen's Park House was a hive of activity as hundreds of job seekers turned up for the Windham Grand Lord's Castle job fair. Many who spoke to CBC News were people who had lost their jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic and were hoping to be re-employed.
I'm looking for anything in the office, so I'm flexible in the office.
Can I ask if you're currently employed?
No, I'm not.
How long have you been unemployed?
Since COVID, since the start of COVID.
At certain hotels, I did gardening, so that's why I'm here again, to apply for the gardening job.
Were you one who would have lost your job during COVID?
Well, not at the hotel, but working elsewhere.
Others had found temporary or side jobs, but were now hoping to be engaged full-time.
I have a few that I jot down that I'm interested in, rather than front desk, floor supervisor, shift leader, etc.
I have started at a restaurant, but then that also lapsed again as well. So then I had to pick up my profession on the side of doing nails, etc. But I'm willing to get back into the hotel industry and give it my best shot.
Chief Executive Officer of Hague Communications, Joyanne Hague, told CBC News there was a steady stream of people throughout the morning.
This morning was a little backed up because we had a late 15-20 minute start, but now there's a steady flow of individuals coming. They're coming with their CVs, a recent passport size photo, and of course some form of identification. We have a lot of young people here, a cross section too as well. They're going to start initially with about 300 and then gradually bring it up to 1,000. So people will be shortlisted today, then they'll be called back for interviews, and that's going to take a little bit of time, but of course there's going to be some training.
As for when the hotel, with its 422 rooms, will be welcoming guests,
I would say in the earlier part of next year, but I wouldn't be able to give you a specific date, but we are getting there. It's almost close to completion, just what we call the cosmetics for the hotel, hence the reason why we are interviewing persons to get them ready.
The job fair concludes on December 10th. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Thanks, Sharika. Residents across several parishes where garbage has been piling up, at times for weeks, have been promised relief by the Sanitation Service Authority. The situation is one public relations officer with the SSA, Carl Padmore, says they are aware of. He tells CBC News some communities in St. Joseph, St. George, St. James, St. John, St. Philip and Christchurch are among those impacted by the lack of collection. Mr. Padmore says the SSA expects to make inroads in these areas this week.
There are reasons for the lack of collection. One, we've had a number of mechanical issues, and the mechanic shop is working around the clock to get those. A number of the roads are under construction, which is making it a bit tedious as well. And we have seen a significant increase in both bulk and household waste on the ground. We know that prior to this, during the COVID, there would have not been so much garbage, but as it comes up to Christmas, the household waste is going to be heavier. It's going to be more, people are bringing up more bulk waste items. So we want the public to be patient with us in this manner.
Coming up, Barbados' new banknotes are in circulation. Barbados' new banknotes have been put into circulation from today. The notes made of polymer will have a new design and will last longer in circulation, and Director of Currency and Payments Oversight, Octavia Gibson, says citizens will still be able to use older notes. The new notes will be available at banks through ATMs and at the counter, but it will likely be a few weeks before everyone gets one in their hand. Ms. Gibson says the change was overdue. She was a guest on CBC TV8's Morning Barbados.
Every 5 to 7 years, central banks around the world look at their banknotes, look at the security features, look at what is happening in the rest of the currency world, and based on that, they make their decision to change the features of the notes. We thought the last time we did a change was 2013. This is 2022. So you will see that we are well within the range 5 to 7 years.
Ms. Gibson has worked with the Blind Association to ensure those visibly impaired can tell the difference with the new money.
We discovered, and in talking to them, that as the notes became older in circulation, they were not able to feel the feature. Now, polymer, you're able to do it in a better way, and the feature will last as long as the notes last. So that is an improvement in that.
Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs Kirk Humphrey is giving strong support to the Welfare Department. Speaking to CBC News this evening, Minister Humphrey says many negative things have been said about the department, but it is doing extremely good work. He shared some statistics with us.
As you are no doubt aware, much has been said about the Welfare Department over the last few years. Some positive things, but a lot of negative things were said about the Welfare Department as well. But I also want to take this opportunity to talk about some of the positives. This year, from March to the end of November, the Welfare Department helped 237 persons with rent, totaling $1.2 million. You would often hear that the Welfare Department is not paying people's rent. $1.2 million in rent arrears. You should also be aware that in relation to cash grants, utilities, food, education, and so on, just over 5,000 persons benefited, totaling $23.8 million. And this is for the period April to November. In fact, this government should be proud to say that they have supported welfare in numbers that normally exceed what governments offer in this regard. Through the year, it's been about, I would say, our list has moved through COVID. It went from about 3,400 to just over 6,000. So we saw almost a doubling of the number of persons who wanted assistance. But I would also say that those numbers are petering off as people begin to find jobs and so on and so forth, and as we clean the welfare list. So I'm very happy with the work that the Welfare Department has been doing thus far. And they're doing it with a client to officer ratio that is dumbfounding. You know, traditionally, that ratio at its best should be 1 to 8 families or 1 to 10 families. In our case, we're doing 1 person to 400 and something persons, or about 40 families, in some cases more. So it is a very difficult situation, but they're doing well to be able to handle it.
Barbados will, with urgency, look into how they can acquire diabetes drugs and other technologies in Cuba in relation to amputations and care. This was one of the main areas coming out of the joint statement by Barbados and the Republic of Cuba for the 8th Cuba CARICOM Summit moments ago. Speaking at the Lloyd Erskine Sanford Center, Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley said there is great sharing which can happen in the area of health.
If I have to put on a priority list of 1 to 10, where this falls at 9.9, because this is going to make the difference in the lives of ordinary people in every single parish in this country. And it is fortuitous that the senior minister, Bruno, who you know well, as previously as Minister of Foreign Affairs, is now the Minister of Health, and is therefore in a position to work expeditiously and a manner that can make this a reality for Barbadians in the next few months through the appropriate regulatory channels that he has to pass through within the context of the ministry. And similarly with the chemotherapeutics. So we start at health.
The Cuban President, Miguel Diaz-Canel, speaking through a translator, said they are looking for new areas of cooperation. Barbados and Cuba have had diplomatic ties for 50 years.
Biotechnology, health, agriculture, climate change, sports, culture, and education, among others. We recognize that the role of CARICOM as a regional organization to provide a framework for political cooperation and South-South cooperation in the Caribbean. We are certain that the results of tomorrow's summit will be satisfactory and will contribute to greater relations between Cuba and the Caribbean CARICOM countries. We thank Barbados for sustained support from 1966 and the report that Cuba presents annually to the UN Assembly to bring an end to the financial blockade against my country.
Sports time now, and we head over to the sports studio and say a very good evening to Anne-Marie Burke.
The Nurse brothers, Shaquem and Raheem, along with Kezia Blunt, were the 3 division champions of the inaugural Independence Road Tennis Youth Development Tournament. Competing recently at the Wildy Gym outside court, Shaquem took the boys' 16 to 21 title, with brother Raheem winning the 10 to 15 age group and Blunt the girls' 10 to 15. CBC's Mark Steele reports.
Starting with the girls' final, Kezia Blunt in the far court lost the first set 21-12 to Renisha Stewart, but drew level by winning the second set 21-16. And now here in the decisive third, the score is tied at 17-all. Stewart had the serve, but lost the advantage with Blunt going on the offensive and winning the point with a passing shot down the line to go up 18-17. And furthermore, she was now on serve. Blunt would ensure to maximize her serving opportunities, and on a second match point, with both players staunch on defense, it would end in an anticlimax via an unforced error. Stewart into the net for Blunt to win the third set at 18, and the game 2-1. Now to the boys' 10-15 division final. It was a similar setup as in the girls. Raheem Nurse in the far court won the first set against Elijah Blunt 21-19, but Blunt roared back to even the contest at 1-all by winning the second at 21-15. Now the score was 17-all in the third. In this situation, however, it was Blunt with the serve, but still Nurse was able to go up with 3 straight unanswered points. He's now 21-17 up for set and match point. Blunt saved the first match point, but Nurse would prevail the very next opportunity as Blunt found the net with a ball he thought was out, as Nurse won the third at 18 and the match 2-1. Now to the main final, the boys 16-21. Well, it wasn't as dramatic as the first one, with Raheem's brother, Shaquem Nurse, winning in straight sets. He took the first at 21-12 over Shaquan Henry, and here, leading 19-8 in the second, the only question was if he could share away a sow for Christmas. This cross-court winner put the writing on the wall at 20-8. Then here on championship point, another entertaining rally with Henry seemingly at one point putting Nurse on the defensive, but failing to push home his advantage. Nurse surging again, and with Henry going long, the deed was done. Nurse taking the second set at 8 and the game 2-0 to be crowned the inaugural Independence Road Tennis Youth Development 16-21 Boys Champion, and with it, the title of being the best junior player in Barbados. Mark Seal, CBC Sports.
A new Barbadian brand has been launched. Renowned chef Trevon Stout says he's ready to cater to the local, regional, and even international markets. Crystal Hoyt has the details.
Local chef Trevon Stout has been cooking up more than food in the kitchen. This is what he's been up to. He calls it Quintessential, a line of food and beverage apparel. Stout officially launched the business in October, and I caught up with him at work.
We were a bit tired of the usual wear of the chefs, mixologists, and the servers in the restaurants. You know, we found it to be a bit flat, a bit on the boring side, not as appealing as it could be.
And he says the apparel is not only fashionable, but functional.
In the sense where, you know, not only does it look good, but it is easy to work in as well. This is seen through the stretch on the arms, the grommets under the arms, the double breast at the front to reduce any risk of burn, and the mere fact that it's water and stain repellent as well.
Though production is being done overseas, he revealed that a local designer was used, and he is looking to expand the brand.
We're looking to go into knives. We have our collection, our next collection dropping, which is the essentials. Right now you have the classic collection. The essentials are going to be more relaxed, shirt type, but still very sexy, still very sharp, but would cater for those beachfront restaurants that don't want to be too uptight, too serious, and those chefs that don't like a lot of the long sleeve as well.
And that's not all. He's taken advantage of technology to reach more markets.
Even though we don't have a local storefront, you know, we have created an e-commerce platform through the website, so we can cater to the local, regional, and international audience as well.
Already, the brand is being embraced and was the official uniform at the recently concluded Food and Rum Festival right here in Barbados. Crystal Hoyt, CBC News.
Thanks, for still efforts are being made to expose more young men to the field of entrepreneurship. According to Executive Chairman of the Barbados Entrepreneurial Foundation, Celeste Foster, male participation in the foundation's programs has consistently been less than 50%. However, during an award ceremony for its Community Summer Challenge, Ms. Foster divulged plans to expand the Mr. Executive Challenge to even more schools.
In our other programs, it typically is only 30% male. And we saw that play out in this challenge again. We thought that to diversify the programs, we would have this program in agriculture. Actually, and in the same light as trying to diversify, this year we started a program with the St. Leonard's School, and we want to say a big thank you to the City of Bridgetown Cooperative Credit Union, the Mr. Executive Challenge, which is all males. And I am happy to report that this year, that Mr. Executive is going to be held across, we're doing a pilot for a national incentive that is going to be held across 5 schools.
The Community Summer Challenge aimed to provide young people with the practical experience of turning $250 into $1,000 over the course of the program. 3 businesses surpassed this target. The award for Micro Enterprise of the Year for the challenge went to Organica by Young and Royal. The business supplies an innovative root crop and vegetable, flowers and cereal. Let me just tell you, for those of you checking for the lotteries, the 653 draw will be repeated after the news. That's our news. Good night and be good. Thanks for visiting us. To get more stories like this one, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.